You're traveling through another dimension, not only of sight and sound, but of products and 800 numbers. A journey into a land whose boundaries are those of your credit card. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the Sci-Fi Trader Zone. A place where amazing insights await you. Case in point, author of The Twilight Zone Companion, Mark Scott Zicree.
I came upon a box that was unmarked, no notice of what was in it. I opened it up, and inside it was filled with scripts. And they were scripts for The Twilight Zone that had been written but never made.
And submitted for your consideration. We'll enter the secret world of 007, which will leave you shaken, not stirred. All this and more awaits you in the Trader Zone. Hi, I'm Warren James, and welcome to The Trader. One of the most famous science fiction shows of all time, The Twilight Zone, has just joined our roster and from now on can be seen on the Sci-Fi Channel exclusively, every day at 7 and 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And on January 1st, start your new year off right with the Twilight Zone Marathon, beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern until 3 a.m. the next morning. Now, on today's episode of The Trader, we're going to look back at the Twilight Zone and showcase some great Twilight Zone products. We're also going to chat with author Lee Pfeiffer about everybody's favorite secret agent, James Bond, and offer a dynamic book about 007. Plus, we have a hot new cyberpunk computer game, and we'll show you how to give your computer a Star Trek flair. My first guest, some of you may have met here before, but in honor of the Twilight Zone's debut on the channel, here's an encore appearance by one of the foremost authorities on the Twilight Zone, Mark Scott Zicree, author of the highly acclaimed book, The Twilight Zone Companion. Mark, you're a really busy screenwriter, and I'm glad you could take some time out because you're working on 5 shows now.
Yes, all fantasy, science fiction-oriented shows, filming on various continents.
And so you were able to take a little time out to join us on The Trader.
Yeah, I get to blow up a lot of stuff, and then I came here to sit in a comfortable chair and talk.
And talk about something we love. By the way, I saw you brought in a neat bit of wardrobe from the Twilight Zone.
Yes, this is actually quite a rarity. This is from a Twilight Zone episode called Death Ship that was written by Richard Matheson and stars Ross Martin and Jack Klugman as astronauts who land on an alien planet and confront their own crashed ship, a duplicate of their own ship that's crashed and their own dead bodies inside. And I was in a store last year and I came upon this, and this is the actual costume used in the episode, and I just said, well, I can't walk out of the shop without that under my arm. So
it's a great piece of wardrobe.
Yeah.
You know, you've been in love with the Twilight Zone like a lot of us for many years. In fact, we're coming up on the 35th anniversary of the debut of the Twilight Zone.
It still holds up. You can still watch it and not feel like you're looking at history.
Right. And now, when you were writing your book, The Twilight Zone Companion, which is a really great book, I really liked it.
Thanks, Ron.
What kind of surprises did you run into when you were researching it?
I got the singular joy of being able to crawl through Rod Serling's attic and poke through his scrapbooks and his files and boxes. This is late 1970s, early 80s. And I came upon a box that was unmarked, no notice of what was in it. And I opened it up, and inside it was filled with scripts. And they were scripts for the Twilight Zone that had been written but never made. And they were scripts by Serling, Richard Matheson, Charles Beaumont, 2 by Ray Bradbury. And it was marvelous. It was really marvelous.
Has anyone talked about filming them?
Well, interestingly enough, one of them, which was a lovely script by Matheson called The Doll, which is not the one that people know from the Twilight Zone.
That was one with Tully Savalas, wasn't
That's
it?
right, Talkie Tina, which was called Living Doll by Charles Beaumont. This script by Matheson was later made as an episode of Amazing Stories some 20 years later and starred John Lithgow. Lithgow won an Emmy for it.
You know, when Rod Serling started the Twilight Zone, he was a really well-respected TV writer. He'd written a number of things, won awards, and then he goes off to make this science fiction show. Why did he decide to make a science fiction show? And also, how were people reacting to it?
In the 1950s, Serling was, by the time that Paddy Chayefsky left television, Serling was the undisputed king of TV writers. There was no one who could match him. He'd already won Emmys for Patterns and Requiem for a Heavyweight. But he was increasingly frustrated because he would want to write things about politics, about social issues, about racism, and the sponsors who ran the TV shows during that period, would insist that anything that smacked of controversy be taken out. And it could be as ludicrous as, for instance, there was one show that was sponsored by Ford, and a skyline of New York had the Chrysler building painted out of it. That was, you know, how picayune they could be. But on the major issues, Serling felt increasingly constrained. And at one point, after he wrote some piece about the Congress, some show, he said, it was so empty of meaning that I would have done better if I'd made everyone an android and said it in the 21st century, because then I could have said what I wanted to say. And it was like the light bulb went off in his head, and he realized that if he wrote a science fiction show, he could write about what he cared about and get his point across.
And science fiction has often done that for us, or even
Yes.
people like Jonathan Swift,
Yes.
Gulliver's Travels, which kind of showed that you could say almost anything and the king wouldn't cut your head off
Yes.
if he didn't think you were talking about him.
Yeah, it's true.
What was so special and unique about the Twilight Zone? How was it that he actually managed to get away with it? Because he still had message stories.
Yes, but I think a lot of people weren't paying attention. You know, it's sort of like the people who would have noticed on some of his bigger things weren't watching Twilight Zone by and large, I think. But more than that, I think what made it special was the fact that prior to Twilight Zone, the fantasy and science fiction series were about the gimmick. They weren't about observing life and commenting on life. And Serling had something very specific to say, and he wasn't just writing about the gimmick. And I think that's what made it special.
It was a very special show, and Mark, you make the stories come alive. Thanks. Well, now here are some products that will transport you from your living room right into the Twilight Zone. Darla?
Celebrating the premiere of The Twilight Zone, airing daily at 7 and 11 p.m. Eastern Time on the Sci-Fi Channel, the Trader has put together a fantastic Twilight Zone package. The best of the Twilight Zone music CD and this Twilight Zone t-shirt, both together are yours for just $29.95 in a call to the Trader.
This rare Twilight Zone compilation CD has not only the legendary main title theme by Marius Constant, but it also features music from such stellar episodes as The Invaders and Nervous Man in a $4 Room by composer Jerry Goldsmith, along with I Sing the Body Electric and Where Is Everybody by the legendary Bernard Herrmann, plus many others. You'll also receive these liner notes chronicling not only the music's background, but also a synopsis of the episodes covered. Hearing these scores in stereo directly from the original masters is a real treat.
The Twilight Zone t-shirt, for days when you feel like you're living in the Twilight Zone. It features the Twilight Zone logo with icons from the opening title sequence. What better way to seep yourself into those haunting storylines than slipping into one of these? It's a BPT and 100% cotton. Your checkbook or credit card is a passport into another dimension. The Twilight Zone package, the best of the Twilight Zone CD, and the Twilight Zone t-shirt for just $29.95. Back to you, Warren.
Thanks, Darla. Now, don't go away. When we come back, we're going to enter the world of Secret Agent 007. For over 30 years now, people around the world have thrilled to the exploits of James Bond. He has all the characteristics of a classical hero: wisdom, bravery, strength, and a devotion to his friends and society. But this is polished by a worldly delight in all the pleasures life can offer. Lee Pfeiffer has written a book that chronicles the life and times of James Bond. Recently, I had a chance to sit down and chat with Lee about why this character has remained so popular in an ever-changing world. Lee, thanks for joining us here on The Trader. You've written a marvelous book about one of my favorite characters, James Bond.
Thank you, Warren. It was fun doing it, really was.
The section I really enjoyed was where you talked about all the scenes that had been edited and changed, either in the writing or in the shooting or in the later editing.
Obviously, in the many years since Bond films have been made, since 1962, there's probably been an awful lot that hit the cutting room floor. Unfortunately, much of it doesn't exist any longer, but there are stories, and there are confirmed stories from the filmmakers of certain sequences that were filmed or planned that never made it into the final cut of the film.
Which one
Absolutely. Well,
surprised you the most?
Well, one of the more intriguing aspects of a plot change was the script for Diamonds Are Forever, which was Sean Connery's big comeback film in 1971 when he had left the series in '67 and came back again for one film in 1971. The original script was supposed to have Bond menaced by the brother of Auric Goldfinger, and presumably the brother of Goldfinger was supposed to be played by Gert Frobe, who played Goldfinger in the original film. There was also supposed to be a massive sea battle where Bond enlists all these promotional vessels from the nearby casinos in Las Vegas and takes them out on the lake and pursues Goldfinger. Absolutely none of that ended up in the final script. And of course, the final film is completely different in tone than what they had originally envisioned.
Well, also, I think there was at least one performance that was shot and not included, wasn't there?
Yes, From Russia with Love, according to Peter Hunt, who was the editor of the early films and the director of Honor Majesty's Secret Service, Peter tells me that there was a sequence done in From Russia with Love that was very effective, in which Bond is being pursued by some enemy agents in a taxi cab, and his helper, Kerem Bey, arranges a traffic accident that blocks these Soviet agents from going after Bond. The only problem is that although the scene worked beautifully and was very amusing, when they were doing a preview screening, one of the producers' young children realized that the Soviet agent who appears in the traffic sequence was killed earlier in the film. And of course, to the consternation of everyone, they had to immediately go back and edit that sequence out. Although it killed Peter Hunt to do it, he said it was a very funny sequence.
Well, also in Diamonds Are Forever, there was a performance by Sammy Davis Jr., wasn't
Sammy
there?
Davis had a highly touted cameo performance in Diamonds Are Forever that ended up, like so many other things, on the cutting room floor. There are some stills of it that exist. I don't know how extensive his role was in it, but yes, after all the hype, Sammy never made it on screen with Bond.
Yeah, another one of the things in your book that was fascinating, actually it was kind of like going back to the Christmases of my childhood, was in your section on the collectibles. You had
Yes,
an
we have a
amazing
huge
collection of
section
things
in
I
here
wanted.
on international collectibles, everything from Japanese models from the 1960s up to the A.C. Gilbert line. And that's an interesting story there, because A.C. Gilbert was one of the big toy companies in America in the 1960s. They had pioneered the Erector sets and things like that. And in the mid-60s, they had a huge line of spy toys that did very well. They had a lot of James Bond dolls and figures, Man from U.N.C.L. toys and things like that. However, Bond both made them and it broke them, because they created the James Bond Road Race set in 1965, which was an elaborate contraption, this beautiful-looking car race set. Sold for $40 in 1965, which was too much money for me to afford to get back
Me
then.
too. I
You were
wanted
frustrated
it.
also,
I
yes.
didn't
Well,
get it
welcome
either.
to the club. Today it cost me $600 to replace it. But what happened was these things sold like hotcakes. They were primarily sold through Sears Roebuck, and sales were great, except the day after Christmas, when the kids started putting these things together, there was a technical flaw in it. They simply didn't work very well. They didn't work at all, in fact. Within a week, virtually every one of them was returned to Sears Roebuck. Refunds had to be given, and it drove A.C. Gilbert into bankruptcy.
Ooh. Lee, it's been nice having you here so we could talk about your book. It's a great book and a
Thank you.
subject we all love. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us here on The Trader.
Appreciate it.
Lee's book is a wonderful reference to everyone's favorite secret agent. Here's Darla to tell you how to get your own copy of this great book.
The Trader has put together a thunderball of a James Bond offering, and it's for your eyes only. A signed first edition of The Incredible World of 007 for only $24.95. And as a bonus, we'll throw in a copy of GoldenEye, James Bond magazine, absolutely free. The Incredible World of 007, signed by author Lee Pfeiffer, is a definitive and authorized James Bond picture book. This oversized high-gloss volume has over 250 rare photos from the Bond archives, plus detailed coverage of every Bond film, including cast and crew lists, credits, critiques, and behind-the-scenes information and anecdotes. Plus, exclusive interviews with producers, actors, directors, and technicians that worked on the films. And an intriguing look at script changes, outtakes, and bloopers that never made it into the films. We have a very limited supply of this offering, 100 copies, and once they're gone for good. So give us a call. comes to you from the Trader with Love. And now here's our very own Oddjob to tell you about what he's been spying on lately.
Thanks, Darla. You know, Bond girls have nothing on you. You've just seen Lee Pfeiffer's interview on his new awesome book, The Incredible World of 007. Lee and I recently met at the first annual James Bond convention here in Los Angeles, where I was asked by the Ian Fleming Foundation to coordinate a mind-blowing exhibit of original Bond memorabilia, which included a variety of full-size vehicles. I brought some photos along with me today to share them with you. Here's the Bathysub from Diamonds Are Forever. This is a scuba tow sled from Thunderball. Notice the working headlights. A wet bike from Spy Who Loved Me. And two of my all-time favorites, the Lotus Esprit Sub from The Spy Who Loved Me, and last but not least, the most famous car in the world, the original Aston Martin DB5 from Goldfinger, which was a dream come true to see in person for the first time. Notice the bulletproof shield behind the rear window of the Aston Martin. Part of the fun of setting up the display was unloading these beauties. Here you'll notice me making sure that the DB5 clears a tow truck as it's being ready to be brought into the exhibition. And here I'm unloading the Lotus Esprit. These valuable collector's cars really had to be handled with TLC. You know, the Aston Martin's appraised value is close to $1 million. If you want to learn more about the Ian Fleming Foundation, order Lee Pfeiffer's book and check out the free issue of GoldenEye magazine, which is published by the Ian Fleming Foundation and includes great stories on locating these historic pieces of Bond memorabilia. Now back to you, Warren.
Jim, up next, an exciting new computer game that combines lethal engineering and merciless combat. Rise of the Robots. Don't miss it. Welcome back. Rise of the Robots is a great new computer game that drops you into the middle of a future world where humans and robots work together. Unfortunately, the supervisor robot that runs the largest robot factory has become infected by a computer virus, and now she plans to simplify her world by eliminating the people. It's up to you to stop her. All of the robots and backgrounds were designed using 3D modeling software and then texture mapped and rendered using photorealistic ray tracing techniques, just like the ones used to create the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. But there's more to this game than just great graphics. The artificial intelligence routines used in this game set new standards. You know, normally, computer opponents have very limited intelligence. They do the same things over and over again, and they never learn from their mistakes. Not so in Rise of the Robots. The AI routines in this game watch your moves, and they learn from your mistakes. To win this game, you'll have to depend on your human characteristics of inventiveness and imagination. To act like a machine, you'll be cybernetic toast for the supervisor. Now here's Jim and Darla to tell you how to get your own copy of this great computer game.
Rise of the Robots, the ultimate CD-ROM game for your PC, is yours for only $59.95 and sophisticated design elements such as 3D photorealistic graphics, robots that move fluidly in a cybernetic environment, and have the newest in artificial intelligence.
Rise of the Robots has 1 or 2 player modes and an optional joystick function, plus an original score by legendary rock guitarist Brian May of Queen. And as an extra bonus, Time Warner is offering this buff Rise of the Robots t-shirt absolutely free by mailing in your proof of purchase. So call Rise of the Robots is yours. And remember, when the robots rise, there can be no mercy.
You know, working with your computer can be serious business, but that doesn't mean you can't have fun with it. And one way you can do this is give your computer a new personality, a Star Trek personality. Here's Darla to tell you how.
The Star Trek Next Generation Computer Accessory Kit is a Trader special at just $149.95. This kit takes that boring beige box look of your IBM PC or compatible computer and gives it a personality transplant. The kit includes a full-function custom keyboard in the shape of an Enterprise instrument panel, a high-quality custom mouse, a Starfleet emblem mouse pad, a next-gen shuttlecraft disc holder, and a 3D Starship Enterprise monitor mask. So why not make sitting in front of your computer an exciting trek with the Star Trek Next Generation Computer Accessory Kit for just $149.95 and a call to the trader. Now don't go away, we'll be right back.
Channel surfers, we got Sci-Fi Channel gear here, a stealth mock turtle, cutting-edge outerwear, and this eternal silver TikTok. Brandish these babies as you hang 10 through those cosmic wormholes.
If you'd like any of the products that we featured on today's show, just give us a call. If you ever get a busy signal, try us again. Remember, the Trader is open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Everything offered on the Trader comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Now here's a quick review of what we had on the show. The Twilight Zone package, featuring the best of the Twilight Zone CD and a Twilight Zone t-shirt, yours for just $29.95. The Incredible World of 007, a fine book autographed by author Lee Pfeiffer, only $24.95. And as a bonus, you'll receive an issue of the GoldenEye magazine absolutely free. Rise of the Robots, the CD-ROM game for the PC, only $59.95. The Star Trek Computer Accessory Kit with a fully functioning custom keyboard and mouse, just $149.95. Now here's Warren with one last lyrical lambast of lingo to loosen your loggerhead, you lads and lassies.
The Twilight Zone took us all on a magic carpet ride into another dimension, one of wonder and surprise. But if you keep your mind's eye open, you'll find wonder and surprise in all the world around you. And if that's not enough, you can catch the Twilight Zone exclusively here on the Sci-Fi Channel. I'm Warren James, and this is the Sci-Fi Trader. We'll be waiting for you in the Trader Zone.